Yo bar, what's up and what's happening, and welcome back to another episode of
It's the Yo Bar series
with me, Chris Harding. In today's episode of How to Diet and Do It Correctly, I'd like to give you 3 examples of clients that I've worked with who have successfully lost weight through 3 different avenues of doing so. So in previous episodes of How to Diet and Do It Correctly, we've talked about different things such as habits, how to formulate them and how to keep them. We've also talked about things such as intermittent fasting and calorie counting. We haven't touched so much on the ketogenic diet, and I will touch on that today. And we also have touched on different things such as the hormone dopamine and just how to diet in general. So the 3 different avenues that I'd like to suggest to you today are 1, ketogenic dieting, 2, intermittent fasting, and 3, calorie counting or macro counting, your macronutrients, which are your fats, proteins and carbohydrates. And the way that I'm going to touch on those today, guys, is I'm going to talk to you about 3 different clients that I have worked with and how they have had their success stories. And also I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight into how I had my success stories with all 3 of those pathways. Okay, play the intro. Come on. So guys, let's jump straight into it. The ketogenic diet, or the keto diet as a lot of people know it to be, is a diet which is basically or fundamentally founded on the fact that you're going to reduce the amount of carbohydrates that you have per day to roughly about 50 grams. So 50 grams of carbohydrates in your intake from whatever food source you're having. The ketogenic diet encourages you to have more fat and more protein and less carbohydrate. Now let's quickly look at carbohydrate and what types of food groups can be called carbohydrates. So quite literally, you have your fruits, your vegetables, things such as breads and pastas, which are kind of processed foods. You have rice and grains. You also could really group alcohol into that food group, and you could also group in things like sweets, sugary drinks, and also things such as biscuits and snacks. Most of those foods are going to be carbohydrate rich, or they're going to come from a form of carbohydrate, whether they're naturally found such as a fruit or a vegetable, or whether they've been processed such as bread, pasta, or anything such as a sweet. So people who are either on the ketogenic diet or people who are looking to onboard with the ketogenic diet and you're currently doing research basically have to follow one simple principle, that they are not going to consume as much carbohydrate. Why is this? This is basically because carbohydrate is, especially processed carbohydrate, is one of the food groups or macronutrients that tend to spike insulin. Insulin is a hormone that is produced by your pancreas, and basically when you ingest carbohydrate, it turns into a sugar called glycogen. And when it turns into a sugar called glycogen, your insulin level tends to spike. Now, I must reinforce the fact that if you're having your carbohydrate from things such as more vegetables or salads and some certain types of fruit that don't have so much fructose in them, actually your insulin won't spike as high. The reason why it won't spike as high is because you're having, or you're choosing to have, carbohydrates which tend to come from fruit and vegetables, which obviously have fiber in them. However, when you choose to eat some food groups such as breads, pastas and cereals, anything which is basically a processed carbohydrate or a form of sugar, it raises the insulin inside your body too quickly, and therefore that process tends to have an ability to store the sugar or glycogen as fat. Therefore it makes you put on weight. So where the ketogenic diet is trying to guide you, or it's trying to help the individual, is it's trying to use body fat more, and it's trying to use carbohydrate less as a form of energy. And the reason why it's called the ketogenic diet is because the less carbohydrate in the body, the more the body will use body fat and turn body fat back into ketogens, and ketogens are used as a form of energy via the body when the body is low or doesn't have sufficient amounts of glycogen or sugar or carbohydrate in it. So the basic principles are less than 50 grams of carbohydrate per day, high amounts of protein and fat intake. You can eat pretty much most vegetables, but only some certain types of fruit. You don't necessarily have to track your macronutrients, so you don't have to track the amount of protein and fat that you're having during the day. The less processed the food, the better. So one of my clients decided to use ketogenic dieting as a way to be able to lose weight. She felt that she was slightly too overweight, and she was a little bit scared by the fact that COVID-19 could possibly affect her well-being, could affect her lifestyle, and obviously she didn't want to catch COVID-19, but at the same time, if she did, she wanted to be able to fight it from a better standpoint. And so she read a few articles, and she read a book called Unlocking the Keto Code. And from this, she then decided to start ketogenic dieting. Now, at the time, I was relatively new to keto dieting, and actually I had never done it before, and I had never actually worked with any client before who had actually done the keto diet. So this was all kind of quite new to me as a coach and as a personal trainer. My client was at the time slightly overweight. Her lifestyle was pretty healthy. She ate really well, but she was definitely someone who would snack a little bit too often, and she would also drink on occasion, but not that frequently. So we started the keto diet for her, and basically she had some really fantastic results to begin with. So the results were quite obvious weight loss, and her diet was quite easy because she really enjoyed to consume vegetables and salads. She also found it quite easy to be able to shift from having carbohydrate rich foods such as pastas and breads to turning to things such as chicken, fish, and sometimes she'd also have red meat as well. And I would say in the initial 6 weeks of her being on this diet, she had some really amazing results. Not only did she have weight loss, but she also felt that her shape had changed, she fitted into her clothes better, and she generally just felt a lot better overall. And on this keto diet, the client continued to improve, and also she continued to lose weight, but at some point the weight did actually start to slow down, which is a natural thing to happen when you are dieting. Now, when I'm dealing with clients and I'm suggesting diets or different types of lifestyle changes that they can take on board in order to be able to lose weight, I'm always looking for the length of time in which that thing is sustainable. So for example, if you did a diet which was very limiting in terms of what you can and can't eat, those diets don't tend to last very long because they tend to become limiting, frustrating, and also just boring. And in my opinion, the keto diet doesn't do that at all. It does give you a lot of option, and also it allows you to really be quite creative with the meals and the recipes that you can have. Now, there are two things that I would suggest to be aware of when you're looking at the keto diet. The first thing is that you pretty much can't come away from the keto diet. It is a lifestyle choice. Therefore, if you decide to come off that lifestyle choice or that diet for a certain period of time, you will find it quite hard to go back on. And I believe this is because the body has got used to having a certain routine and a certain type of food, that when you refeed certain types of processed foods back into the body, it actually is quite hard for the body to go back to the keto diet. I don't think it's healthy to yo-yo in and out of any type of diet, but especially the keto diet. And that is because I think it's just so difficult to be able to keep on track with it. The second thing that I would suggest with the keto diet is that when working with clients, I find that after a while they do stagnate. And I think this is because they are pretty much in the same routine or the same pattern day in, day out, week in, week out. Therefore, what I think you probably should do is switch things up from time to time. It probably is a good idea to actually take on more carbohydrate calories sometimes when you are starting to find that you're kind of getting into a bit of a lull. I think that a lot of people on the keto diet, and my client included, tend to get fixated on the fact that they want to lose weight. But obviously weight loss does take quite a lot of time, and if you suppress the amount of food that you're eating per day and you're not eating enough food, it's going to naturally lower or depress your metabolism. So it is a fantastic diet. It has got a lot of pros to it, but I think one of the quite obvious cons that I find when I'm working with clients is that they tend to stagnate and they tend to stop losing weight. And although they have been advised to lose weight or they want to lose weight, they tend to forget that they actually do need to eat enough fuel in terms of all your macros, your carbohydrates, your fats and your proteins to be able to fuel your metabolism and for your metabolism to be able to burn more body fat. However, as an overall, I would say that the keto diet, if performed properly, can be a much healthier option of dieting or lifestyle transformation. It tends to offer quite a lot of healthy recipes, and I think that a lot of the carbohydrate that you choose tends to lean more towards the fruit and vegetables than it does highly processed foods, which is obviously going to be much better for you. So overall, in my opinion, I think this is a fantastic option for you to explore if you feel that the keto diet would work for you. This diet does actually offer quite a lot. It offers the individual the opportunity to have flexibility. It offers the individual the opportunity to lose quite a decent amount of weight in a healthy way. And it also offers people who suffer with diseases such as type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, and people who also have blood pressure. It offers them a chance to be able to reduce those things because of the types of foods that you're eating. Obviously, as I said at the beginning, you are dropping out 1/3 of the macronutrient trio, which are proteins, fats and carbohydrates are the one that you're actually going to lower. And so therefore, because of that, your glycogen or your blood sugar tends to be lower, which also has a positive effect on your insulin levels, which also will tend to be lower and spike less.
It's the Yo Bossy Weeks.